Hi, good day everyone. I'm Simon Dawson, Senior Lecturer at Cardiff Metropolitan University. Welcome to my short interviews with industry specialists, where I get to ask how they got into their field of work, the essential skills that they use, and any advice they can offer students or graduates during the studies or when they enter the food industry. Today, I'm joined by Louise Whymark. Louise, welcome and thank you for talking to me.
Thank you and hello.
So first, I'd just like to ask if you can explain a little bit about who you are and what you do, please.
Yeah, so I'm Louise. I've been in the industry probably for about 17 years now. Worked myself up through to senior technical manager, head of department level. I've worked across both manufacturing and retail. So I worked for Sainsbury's for 3 years, and then I've worked across manufacturing sites as well. I have quite most recently actually just been working in recruitment, which is quite a different perspective on the industry, but it's been really interesting. So I've got to talk to a lot of different professionals, technical managers, directors, and just understanding kind of their role and input into the industry. So it's all been, as we all know, the food industry is very diverse. And yeah, I've learned a huge amount, and obviously power of networking and how that all comes about. So.
I see. So could you just explain a little bit about how you got into the food industry in the first place?
Yeah, so when I did my A-levels, I didn't actually really know what I wanted to do. I think that's fairly commonplace these days. And I had no idea what the food industry was about, or kind of that was even the direction I was going to take. But I really enjoyed doing the sciences. So I did a degree in biological science at Exeter. And then out of that, I decided that actually food and food microbiology in particular was an area of interest at the time. So I did a master's in food technology with quality assurance at Reading Uni. And actually, as that evolved, I found that other areas of the food industry were of more interest to me. So when I did that, I graduated, tried to find another role or a role into the food industry. And at the time, there wasn't anything available where I was. So I did a QC microbiologist role for a pharmaceutical toiletries and cosmetics manufacturer, because I thought from my perspective, actually just getting into an industry, at least a similar industry, would get my foot in the door and give me some experience. And sure enough, a year later, I was into the food industry itself, in snack manufacturing. So yeah, and I've kind of worked my way from there, and I made sure that in my early stages of the career, I was actually getting a lot of experience in different food categories and product areas as well, whether that be chilled, ambient, low risk, high risk, ready to eat, ready to cook, etc. So I was starting to broaden my experience and category knowledge.
I see. So have you always been in technical?
Yes, I think that's just where I guess from my perspective, I've always sort of been a scientist. I've always been curious, understanding how things are made. And yeah, for me, it was kind of just a natural route. I'm probably not as creative as many of the others. So technical kind of, I guess, was kind of where I sat. But yeah.
I see. So within the current kind of line of work that you're doing, like the technical roles, what do you find are like the greatest rewards and challenges?
I find it quite rewarding, I think, because you can actually genuinely make a positive difference. And I think because everything is about product safety, so obviously encompassing the legal side and obviously the quality side into it, I think for me, I feel like I'm genuinely making a difference. So whether that's taking a customer's brand standards and applying them to the factory product, etc., it's quite rewarding kind of seeing that end piece when you've done all that work, all that hard work with the factory. The factory themselves have put all that hard work into it as well, and actually you've got the end result that everyone's really pleased with. I think in terms of challenges, it's very fast paced. I like that. I thrive on the speed of the industry. There are times occasionally where you're working with negative time, but actually that's all about being resourceful, thinking on your feet, thinking of different ways of doing things. And yeah, I guess that's kind of quite challenging. And I think one of the other challenges in the industry, again, is all about problem solving, but there's that kind of sort of balance, finding a balance, I guess, between quality and productivity. So, it's about getting the product out the door, but actually there's no point in getting the product out the door if it doesn't meet quality, and of course the safety element as well. So it's finding that balance, and there can be differences in terms of perception of risk, and sometimes you have to make unpopular decisions, but actually that's all just about applying your knowledge and doing the right thing. It's that integrity word that comes into it, I guess. But yeah, so.
I see. So within these roles that you've done, if you're looking at essential skills or soft skills, I think they're called as well, what are the ones that you most commonly use then?
Actually, a lot of risk assessment. I was having a good think about this, and actually risk assessment, I think, comes into it quite significantly, and it's something that everybody does in their day-to-day life, whether it's kind of driving the car or getting on an airplane or whatever it might be, but thinking about that sort of likelihood, severity. So just looking at things like mitigating factors and controls, and thinking about a process or a piece of equipment and the impact that might have on the final product in terms of risk of contamination and everything. I think also just being able to adapt to different environments. 1 minute I can be working with a big corporate food manufacturer who have got, a wealth of experience and a very, quite rightly and understandably set in their ways, and you're coming in and you're talking about brand standards, and actually maybe they need to look at a different way of doing something to meet the customer's requirements. And then the next minute you're working with a small startup business, and you're providing them perhaps a little bit more support, but working very hard with them. And actually that can be extremely rewarding when you've put that work in, they've put that work in, and between you've kind of really developed their business, and you can see them sort of flourishing and starting to move into different customer markets and things. So I think adaptation, and I guess always being open to learning. I don't think you can ever go to a factory, whether you're there to conduct an audit or whatever, and you will never be able to go in and know everything. I always come away from a factory learning something new about a particular process or a way of working. And that's what I love about the industry.
Oh, fantastic. So if you were employing a graduate, what kind of skills would you be looking for then?
Has to be someone who's got a passion for what they do and what they want to do. Absolutely, that really has to come across. Someone who's kind of got a natural flair for problem solving, whether that's looking at complaint analysis or having to deal with a process issue in a factory, someone who's got that natural curiosity, because it's all about asking the right questions when you're in that environment. So someone who can kind of work through something logically, or perhaps think outside the box as well as part of that. Attention to detail, that really has to come through. And if we kind of, talk about CVs and things like that, if you're wanting to join the industry doing writing specifications or checking artwork and that side of thing, your CV, for example, has to be accurate, no spelling mistakes and grammar, that side of things. So someone who you can see who's really kind of thorough in what they do.
I see. That kind of leads me on to the next question, actually, which is, what kind of advice would you give graduates to help them with a CV, cover letters, to help them get in the door for their first interview?
Yeah, so as I said, definitely that attention to details, making sure you've got the accuracy on your CV. And as I've mentioned before, getting that passion across as well. So, if you've got your personal profile at the top of the page, get your passion for food or science or technical, whatever you're working towards, get it in there. Make sure your CV is tailored to the job. Keep it relevant to what you're applying for, and make sure you're giving examples of achievements. Don't let it read as a job spec, but more kind of what you've been able to achieve, and give examples. I guess other things to think about in this day and age are things like your social media content, whether that be your Facebook profile picture, making sure it's appropriate, to things like if you're using, or certainly if you're referring to an Instagram or blog, for example, that you've been doing, because of your passion in food and stuff, make sure it's appropriate, it's up to date, it's relevant, etc. And I I guess the other thing is LinkedIn, making sure that matches your CV and actually having a presence. So many recruiters and recruiting managers really use LinkedIn these days, and it's really quite a powerful tool.
I see. Yeah, I mean, I've been using LinkedIn a lot more over the last couple of years, I would say, than what I have done in the past, and such a beneficial tool to use, really.
Absolutely, and I think because with my last role doing recruitment, it's really opened my eyes up to how much it's actually used, and it's such a powerful tool now.
Yeah. So just as a final question for you then, for people that are considering university or as a career path to go on, why would the food industry be a good option to consider?
I think because it's so diverse, so you can go into it in one area and actually you can then evolve your career based on where your interests and your expertise, I guess, lies. So you're not funneled into just one area and then you think, oh, actually, maybe this isn't for me. There's so many different opportunities. I think recent events have probably highlighted the fact that actually the absolute importance and critical nature of the food industry. It's something that everybody knows, something everybody understands and has a level of involvement or opinion on even. But you get to do so many different things, and even, you know, doing technical, I've done other things around environment, you know, corporate social responsibility, the ethical pieces. There's just so many different opportunities within it, and I like it because actually it's quite a close network as well. So you always, you know, you're always not that far away from another professional within the food industry. So it's I just find it really interesting. I love it. So.
Fantastic. Louise, it's been great talking to you today. I think you've offered some really good advice, especially for those that are interested in the food industry or those that are like graduating anyway. So thank you, take care, and I hope to talk to you again soon.
Lovely. Thank you very much.